We are just as good, we are just as talented, we are just as skilled.
There's a lot of Hispanics out there. Every year also, guys and athletes and players get bigger, longer, faster.
As Latino participation in football continues to grow, fans on both sides of the border are eager to see Latino players make their mark on this uniquely American game.
This has always been a part of my life, and it's a very big part of my life.
Lo hago por mí, porque es parte de mi estilo de vida, porque me hace ser mejor mujer, mejor persona.
So what is the future for Latinos in the game?
1, 2, 3.
This is future history.
Yo digo bola al 1 o bola al 2, ustedes la mandan. Empieza ella, siguiente jugada ella, siguiente jugada ella, siguiente jugada ella y regresamos otra vez. ¿Okay? Arranca. Okay, regresa, necesito ritmo.
It's Saturday morning here in Mexico City. Behind me is the women's national football team. Once they're done with practice, we're going to talk to some of them. MJ Acosta is going to join me, and we're going to see what the experience of these players is like.
MJ Acosta is a reporter for the NFL Network covering the Raiders and the 49ers. I met her in the Bay Area, and when she told me she was going down to Mexico for the game, I thought it would be a good idea to introduce her to the Mexican women's national team, to hear what football means to them and what it has done for their lives.
I know you. ¿Cómo estás? MJ, te presento a la selección de fútbol americano femenil.
Qué emoción. Quisiera saber yo cuáles son algunos de los sacrificios que ustedes tienen que hacer para poder jugar este deporte.
Muchas veces el contorno social en el que nos desenvolvemos espera menos de nosotras como por ser mujeres, ¿no?
Ha sido muy fuerte para todas las jugadoras en México. Te empiezan como a comparar y ya cuando empiezan a ver más dices, no, sí se pegan.
Las mujeres sí juegan. O sea, cambias su chip de una mujer sí juega.
1, 2, adentro. Eso.
Todo eso es mentalidad. O dentro y fuera del campo. Ustedes tienen que ser buenas jugadoras, buenas hijas, buenas en todo, ¿no? Porque entonces si no, no son dignas de ser jugadoras de fútbol americano. Y es verdad, quien juega este deporte, mis respetos, o sea, porque seas hombre o seas mujer, tienes que tener una disciplina y un proceso de preparación constante, porque no es cualquier deporte.
Somos jugadoras de toda la República. Hoy en día estamos en un proceso de selección nacional para representar a México contra la selección de Europa.
No hay otra opción. Es ganar y ganar bien. Vamos a tener la segunda mitad, vamos a parar en la primera serie bien parado. Necesito la bola, la ofensa entra, contundente a meter 7 puntos y se acabó. De ahí nos esperamos. ¿Estamos de acuerdo? ¡Sí! 3, 2, 1. ¡Defensa, corre la defensa!
The team has had a rough start battling for recognition and support, but recently won 3rd place at the last Football World Cup. They're preparing for the next one, which will hopefully take them to Finland in 2021. People of all nationalities, genders, and skill levels can play the game and find meaning in their participation. It's a lifestyle. These girls are a symbol of endurance and determination that football stands for, and have a bright future in front of them that will not come without endurance and grit as they advance to the next level. To see what is being done at the collegiate level, we traveled to the home of Mexico's strongest football programs, Tec de Monterrey. This storied college team is the first in Mexico to produce an NFL player. We met with that star graduate, Rolando Cantú, who played for the Arizona Cardinals and now works as a broadcaster for the organization.
¿Qué tal? ¿Cómo andamos, David?
Bien,
¿Qué tal?
Placer, David.
¿Cómo empezó tu interés o tu obsesión con el americano?
Viví aquí en la Colonia Primavera, a un lado del Tec de Monterrey, y íbamos a ver, de repente, escuchábamos el entrenamiento, ¿no?, de borregos, y veías los cascos y las sombreras, y veías los cuernos, el logotipo. Se presenta la oportunidad, y el Tec de Monterrey va formalmente a McAllen y me ofrece una beca. Yo, en lo personal, cuando llegó esa oportunidad, pues la tuve que tomar. El que te scouteen y que te estén reclutando, tiene que ser un proceso muy extenso, y en el deporte, si no tienes esa confianza desde el principio y no la transmites a tu equipo, a cómo juegas, cómo funcionas, cómo te preparas, yo creo que nunca va a llegar. ¿Cómo andan, gordos? ¿Qué pedo, listos o qué?
Listo.
Está bueno, pinche clima con madre, ¿no?
Rolando, ¿qué es lo que hace este programa de borregos tan único y pues, tan chingón aquí en México?
Pues la verdad es el trabajo, la constancia, es la preparación entre semana. Entonces, borregos, nuestra tradición es trabajar durante la semana. Yo creo que ahí es donde se hace el trabajo sucio, es la preparación. En este campo, en este estadio Borregos, precisamente estos eran los campos donde yo entrenaba cuando estaba con el equipo, ¿no? Aquí juegas por tu hermano, por tu carnal, por el que está enseguida de ti, ¿no? Yo creo que estamos listos para el siguiente nivel. Constantemente tener jugadores de posición en la NFL forjados en México. O sea, yo veo que hay morros que sí pueden. Simplemente es inyectarles esa confianza y decir, ¿sabes qué? Juega, güey. Y sé el mejor.
Isaac Alarcón, offensive lineman for Tec de Monterrey, will represent Mexico in the next International Player Pathway program. The possibility of another Mexican player making it to the NFL has never looked so close. Will Hernandez is one of the most promising Latino players in the NFL today. He plays as a guard for the New York Giants. We met up with him at one of his favorite restaurants in New York. What advice would you give to like a young Hispanic kid that's like dreaming about playing in the NFL someday?
You know, if this is really your dream and this is really what you want to do, revolve your whole life around this. Every year also, you know, guys and athletes and players get bigger, longer, faster. But trust me, if you're good, they're going to be watching you and they're going to contact you at some point.
Where did you grow up? Where did the Will Hernandez story start?
I was born in Las Vegas, Nevada. I was born there. My parents were from Mexico City. I actually started off as a soccer player. You know, it was a little hard for me, especially for my dad, to go and tell him that I wanted to play football. Because my dad, he was always a soccer player. He played professional soccer in Mexico. I made the switch over from soccer to football my freshman year of high school. I grew up with him coaching me how to play soccer, and now I'm teaching him how to play football. That's pretty funny. Off the field, there was a few challenges because on the field it was all, I mean, I was learning, I was loving the game, I was having fun playing it. But off the field, I would say, you know, there was a lot of financial struggles that were getting in the way of football. Right. I wanted to keep playing football, I loved it, but I felt like I needed to get a job and help with the money, and you know, that was my natural instinct. The way the Hispanic culture is built, the way the Hispanics are, you know, naturally they're just, you know, hard workers. I think that's the perfect recipe, you know, Hispanics and playing football. Hard work and getting coached up, getting told what to do, and doing it to the best of your ability. That's really all it is. All I can do is just work hard, because you never know what could happen.
Harlingen is a community in the Rio Grande Valley. It's an all-American town only miles away from the border with Mexico. 73% of the population here is Latino, and there is a love for football that is commonplace in Texas. Harlingen High School, House of the Cardinals, is the original public school in town and the one with the more dominant football program. As a 6A school, they compete in the highest class of Texas high school football and hope to soon make it back to the state playoffs for the 43rd time in their history.
We're fortunate in that we've been around the longest. We've been established since 1913. We have the most district championships in our part of the world. We have 38.
Good morning. Good morning. Our gift for today is identified Poe, Edgar Allan Poe. We should have read, I thought I read The Raven, did I not? And Poe was always upset who died in his life. That's a great job, okay? I hope that's the way it's going to be from now on. I hope this is the way we need to be from now on.
We look forward to having the opportunity to go to college and play, and then maybe from there have an opportunity for the NFL. We are just as good, we are just as talented, we are just as skilled, and when we do that, then everything else balances out. Then it's a matter of will.
We also spoke to Manny Gomez, who is head coach to the Harlingen Cardinals.
H-back, okay? Running back, aggressive, defensive player. Aggressive people in the front, man, because of what? The opportunity, them trying to make something happen on an outside kick, man. So keep your damn eyes on the damn ball. Be freaking aggressive, fellas. Come on, man. All right, here we go. The kids here in Harlingen, the kids in San Benito, La Feria, you name it. You go out there and watch them compete, they play hard. Not just for themselves, they play for their families, they play for their communities. and it shows. They play for their school, and that's why Valley football is special.
Wrong over here.
Like, this is what we do. I think it's totally up to you. If you want it, then you're gonna go get it. And you're gonna work hard for it. I know in life, it's not always perfect. You know, adversity is gonna hit, and when it does hit, like, you gotta be ready for it. You just gotta embrace it and keep going.
Harlingen South, the newer high school, is on an upward path to a more successful football program, advancing steadily to its goals of improvement. They are the underdog in the rivalry between both schools.
This is where we all meet before practice.
Let's go, man, let's go. David, let's go, let's go, let's go. You guys ready? Let's go.
More and more Latinos are going into college, more and more Latinos are going into professional fields. Do you see that shift happening in football as well?
We invest time, we invest sweat and blood in the weight room, we invest time in practice field. So the more you invest in something, the harder it's going to be to fail. So, and the kids want that. They want to work hard. They want to be pushed. And you know, we try to do that every day, and we try to do it in a positive way. You know, our preparation, our scheming, and understanding that football season is not just 3 months, it's the 12-month preparation.
Come on, come on, come on. 2 hands, Israel. 2 hands, Israel. 2 hands, Israel.
We wake up around 5:40, get to the school around 6, be on the practice field here at 7, practice till 9, and then I go to all my classes in the afternoon. Whenever I was a little kid, my tia told me whenever she was taking care of me one time, I was about probably 2 or 3 years old, and I was just walking around throwing up a football and catching it. And it's just always been a part of my life, and it's a very big part of my life. People see him like, oh, he's nothing. He's a small little kid, but I always try to prove him wrong. That's really my main goal, is to prove him wrong, to prove everyone wrong. All the people that doubt and look down, I want to prove them wrong.
What about now that you see like Latino players in the NFL?
It definitely motivates me. It gives me hope that there is a chance, the opportunity to do that.
Each year, Harlingen High and Harlingen South meet at the Bird Bowl, a game which involves both high schools but also the whole town. This game is an example of what football can achieve, a sense of community and gathering. And in Texas, for a Friday night game, things get real.
Here it goes, he's challenging you. Dominate game. Dominate. Great job, turn it up.
Around 90% of the students who graduate from Harlingen Public High Schools are Latino. And although only a few of them go on to play college sports, this community, smack right next to the border, is living proof that Latinos are embracing football at all levels. Hispanics are the fastest growing demographic in the NCAA in the last 10 years, due in part to high schools like these. Yet they are not making it to the NFL in the same numbers. In a state where high school football is a religion, Hispanic majority schools are now consistently competing regionally as their sports program moves forward. Each one of these players face a huge challenge in front of them. They are the face of Latinos in football, and their future is uncertain. Only hard work and dedication will take them to succeed. On the next episode of Americano, we travel south of the border to explore a deeply rooted local rivalry and the ways Mexicans embrace their passion for football.
We're in the historic Estadio Azteca. This is Mexico's yearly NFL game. There's a true passion and excitement to live the sport.
Aquí son millones los que siguen la NFL.
Enseñar que tenemos también la garra para jugar este deporte.